Like we're good. We're back. Hello and welcome to the Texas Apartment Association's Education Foundation series, Hints from HR. I am Blaise Spitaleri with Gemstar Construction. I'm honored to be back with some of my old friends, Nicolle Block with Brookfield Properties, and
hello,
Becca, the VP of TAAEF. Ladies, say hello to the lovely crowd out there.
Hello, hello.
hello. We missed you, Blaise. We missed you. And don't call us old. Don't call us old friends.
Old friends. I just
we're
say
not old.
in the fact that I haven't seen y'all in a couple of months or engaged in this kind of way, because we've had Billy Griffin in here doing some hosting duties. So a big shout out to him for everything that he's done. He's a natural, and it kind of reminded me of how informative these shows are when I'm a viewer as well. So without further ado, we have our guest today, Mr. Thomas Marmolejo of Camden Property Trust. Thomas, if you want to take the screen for a minute and give an introduction, tell everybody who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Thomas Marmolejo. I'm the Director of Talent Acquisitions for Camden. In my role at Camden, it's overseeing from recruiting to onboarding to the mentoring for nationwide for all of Camden. And I'm excited to be here. Thank y'all for the invite.
Absolutely. And again, thank you guys for the invite and allowing me to come back. Today's topic is a super important one. It's the TAAEF's Maintenance Apprenticeship Guide. Becca, as the Vice President of the Education Foundation, why don't you tell us a little bit about what this guide is?
Sure. So we just launched this new resource. Basically, it helps you to have the framework to create a maintenance apprenticeship or a new hire program or an existing hire training program that allows you to very intentionally take time to train new maintenance hires and gives you a curriculum to do that based on a week-by-week version so that your maintenance professionals who do the training are able to look at it week by week or even day by day. The guide is really set into 3 sections. The first one is all about getting started. What do you need to do to have a program like this? How do you get your leadership, your on-site teams, your maintenance teams, your HR departments? How do you get everybody to buy in and to be engaged with the program? Then we focus on the curriculum. And then the third part, which is important too, is that there are funds out there to help support apprenticeship or new on-the-job training, new hires from the state and from workforce solution boards. And so we talk a little bit about how you can get information on those and get paid or reimbursed for some of those employees' time. So a huge new resource that we're really excited about. But what it did was it really showed us the importance of intentional training. And so we're going to have a webinar on the guide on September 20th, and you can register for the webinar at taa.org/events, and we'll put all this in the chat as well as a link to the guide. But we wanted to take this opportunity to sort of set the stage with talking about intentional training and why that's so important.
So excellent. I'm looking forward to this as well. It sounds like a wonderful program. Thomas, my understanding is that Camden is part of this program or have been utilizing this program. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've been using this program for quite some time. I would say it went back to 2022 when we officially kind of put it in place. And it did start with our apprentices, our maintenance apprentices that we brought on. For us, since we were going greener with maintenance, we wanted to put something in front of our on-site staff and for that apprentice to actually learn the basics of maintenance. And that was the biggest thing for us, is getting the basics down. You're going to learn everything else once you continue to grow in this role. So we sort of started with the apprentice program, but then we've also, to Becca's point, we've also actually started doing it for all of our technicians coming in, whether you're skilled or not. Everyone's going to be able to benefit something from it. And a lot of it for us is you may know, obviously, the traits of what this takes to be a technician, but how do we do it at Camden? What's the biggest thing for us? And so we built this around how we do it here at Camden. And so from apprentice to technician, everybody runs through this program for us going forward.
And just to piggyback on that real quick before Nicolle jumps in about intentional training, what that means to her, why we wanted to create this guide, which I completely forgot to mention, is because not everyone is in a big city that has a Goodwill or partners like that. Not everyone has Camden's resources and training team. So this is something that any sized company can use to provide training and to provide that framework for this type of program. How it's used is up to the company, and that's really why we wanted to do this, customizable and available to all.
This definitely sounds like it could be the blueprint for the future as well in hiring, recruiting, maintaining individuals in the maintenance program, and maybe other departments in the future as well. But getting back to, yes, the intentional training, Nicolle, you're always a wealth of knowledge. Do you mind giving your definition and telling us about intentional training?
Yeah, right before that though, I did want to kind of step back, and I just want to make sure that we're really kind of like double clicking through the themes when we talk about, again, to recruit, train and retain. This is really important. It's something they've all been working on, but I love the scalability. One of the things for this podcast is that we definitely don't have all the answers, but we encourage you to ask the question. And so I think that by having this guide, to Becca's point, is that you may already have most of these questions answered. You may have none of these questions answered, but at least is a starting point that's completely scalable. So great job. Fantastic. I was able to take a look through the guide, and it's super exciting for our industry. So just some quick kudos. So yeah. Good job. But talk about intentional training. So y'all know intentionality is like probably my favorite word. I think Becca thinks of me every time she says it. But truly it's about, being effective. I love Thomas's phrase about going green, because we think that that's about sustainability, but it's actually about someone who's new to our industry too. And so I think that that's what a fantastic kind of phrase that I'm going to steal. So Thomas, I'm going to tell you that right now. But I think that going green is important because, again, we have a less skilled workforce that we're kind of paying more for, if you will. And so trying to bridge the gap to fill that value is where intentionality is going to be so critical. So I think by taking and making the time, to sit down with this apprenticeship, this guide, this person, this role, and use that blueprint to guide them is really critical. Just even right now, whenever we scheduled this, they're like, "Hey, Nicolle, is this going to work for you?" I'm like, "Sure." I'm going to be on site, got my Brookfield polo on, and I'm literally going to be walking with a maintenance technician after this call so that we can make sure our make-ready standards are in line, and that it's like what I'm seeing is what they're seeing, is what the regionals and the management is seeing as well. So that's, to me, being intentional. This is a new maintenance technician. We, Brookfield, are just now rolling out a maintenance onboarding program as well. And so it's very important, while we're trying to build this foundation, to be intentional and to make the time for it, and don't assume that they know, and I think that that's been probably a challenge for us. And especially if we're going green, there's so much that they have to learn from like day one until forever. And we can't lose sight of that. So I think by making that time, by walking the make readies, getting that move-in experience, fantastic, because we all know if something goes wrong on the move-in, we never hear the end of it. But if something goes right on the move-in, then they're 80% more likely to renew. So there we go. But I think the intentionality is focusing on the person, the role, and the property, and tailoring your approach to their needs. So that's probably the easiest way to say it.
I can't wait for my yard to go green itself.
Well, we are in Texas, and I'm sorry. Sorry.
But Thomas, I want to kind of flip that question to you as well. If you can give us your definition on intentional training.
No, I agree with everything that Nicolle said. What I will say is, when we talk about the apprentice and having somebody who's very green into this role, there's going to be a lot more hands-on walking through things.
Mm-hmm.
But when we talk about a technician who may have those skills, maybe just needs to learn the Camden way and how we do it, something like this, we kind of have it scheduled out where it's an 8 to 10 week program, right? 8 to 10 weeks is when what it'll take to get someone up to speed. But when you talk about somebody coming in who has the experience of a technician, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to take the full 8 weeks, right? So somebody coming in may have the experience of certain areas of plumbing as being one. And if they have that experience, obviously you're going to spend some time on it, but being open to and flexible to say, "You got it, let's move on." And that's one of the things that we've kind of really had conversations on our side, because in the beginning it was all about, we need to check every box and make sure everything is being talked about, which extended this program, which extended the training out to be much longer than it really needed to be, especially with somebody who has the experience.
Yeah.
So that flexibility came in really key for us to say, you don't have to go through every single box. If they got it, move on. So, but that, so Nicole's, but it is intentional. Like you have to spend the time on it. You have to create the time for it, for your on-site staff to sit there and go and work through it together.
And I know,
Yeah, and I think, oh, go ahead, sorry.
I was just going to say, we don't have the guide specifically in front of us right now, but I just want to give another plug, and I will continuously on September 20th at 2 p.m. There will be a program where you can find out more information on this Maintenance Apprenticeship Guide. Tongue tire. I can do the Texas Apartment Association's Education Foundation, no challenge. I haven't practiced this one as much. We'll get to it. Nicolle, please continue.
Yeah, and one of the things that I would just encourage you is operators, supplier partners, job seekers, whoever's sitting here listening to this, is that this is a time investment. Many of the things that we discussed, and the reason intentionality is important is that, just like what Thomas said, this could be an 8 to 10 week program, could be 6 weeks, again, depending on what their needs are. But being intentional about what type of property are they on? Are they on a garden style? Are they on a mid-rise? Are they on a high-rise? Are they in student housing? Are they in senior housing? Are they on a 60-year-old community, a 6-year-old community? There's all different types of skills they're going to need on the asset that they're on. And then you look at what the person needs. But this really is a time investment. So if you think of it, sometimes people are like, I don't have time to do it. And just remember, I have to give my husband props on this. He always says that we never have time to do it right, but we always have time to go back and do it again. And if you think about the cost of turnover, the cost of productivity, hitting your bottom line, the stress on your current team that is there whenever someone turns, right? You have an open position. By making that time to ensure a solid foundation, a strong onboarding, and just doing as much as you can to fill in the cracks on the front end is going to pay off dividends, because you're going to have a highly engaged associate. It's going to do nothing but bring great customer service and continue to spread a great culture, right? And that's priceless. So just remember that, because some of the objections we hear sometimes with companies like, oh my gosh, got to start an onboarding program. It's going to take 6 weeks. It's going to do these things. But then you see their turnover is so high, and they're not ever like kind of catching up. So I just want to make sure that if that's a potential objection, that you just kind of walk that back and just rethink, how much are you paying in turnover and loss of productivity and your employees' engagement? So I just want to throw that out there as far as being intentional too with the time investment.
That's definitely a trickle down effect too, because then that affects your residents too at your communities as well.
Blaise, talk about checking the boxes. This is not a one and done. And Thomas can talk to it, but when they started the program, in a way that worked for them, there were a lot of boxes, like Thomas was saying. And so this is not one and done. This is not something you check off. Okay, we did this program, it's over. This is a consistent thing where you're checking in with those apprentices because you want them to become your full-time employees. And then that training and that development continues. And so that time investment and taking time to plan for this, I just think needs to be said. It will pay off, like you're saying, Nicolle, but it's really important. And I know how you guys approach that to start, but it's a lot.
Absolutely. And Thomas, I mean, you can get through to that checking boxes aspect of it. I did want to just ask too a little bit about time. I think we mentioned, like Nicolle was saying, if we invest 6 weeks into you, or what does this look like? This particular program that you've all adopted, what kind of time frames are you putting into the training? What does a week-to-week development look like?
Yeah, so for us in total, it is, we've kind of nailed this down to be 8 to 10 week program. And honestly, like when we initially kicked off, and Jason, I'll give him a lot of credit on this because he's the one who initially started this off for us, is we're saying an hour to an hour and a half a day with someone, right? You're gonna spend an hour and a half in the morning, walk through what we're looking at today, what they're gonna go through today. So it's not an 8-hour day of training. It's spending an hour and a half with somebody, kind of walking through some of those things of what's to come, or what are we going to be looking at. And then really from there, it's just, they're going to shadow. They're going to just walk around with your maintenance supervisor or technician, whoever you assign that candidate or that apprentice to. And they're just going to walk around with them and just see what's going on, make some notes as they're walking through. So that was kind of our approach. I know the nervousness in the beginning was, I'm gonna have to have somebody with me 8 hours a day, and I'm gonna have to, sort of babysit somebody. And it's not that. It's you spend an hour and a half walking through some things, and then you just kind of they shadow you from there.
Mhm.
And obviously there's some easy things like they can do on site of painting some walls or things like that that they can sort of take on themselves that doesn't require them having to open up, take a ticket and move from there. So those are other options that we have that they can kind of do some work on the side as well.
And I think we'll see an unintended benefit of this is those service maintenance team members who are leading the training, getting experience and getting comfort with being able to train their teams. And this is a
Sure.
good way to introduce them to that and to encourage them to do more. And so I think I'm excited to see a whole bunch of new maintenance trainers out there as a result of this.
Now, does that change too from a week to week basis of what you're educating them on in that hour and a half, 2 hours a day? So like week 1 is different from week 5. Is there certain like modules that you will hit so that you're, checking those boxes to make sure that you are getting your candidates fully educated? And that anybody could take that.
Oh,
yeah.
Thomas?
So-
Did Tom, there you go. The Thomas went away for a second. We're like, Thomas, come back.
So I don't know if Thomas heard everything there, but Nicolle
There you
also.
go. Sorry.
Oh.
I can answer that as we're getting set back. We have a 10-week course as laid out in this guide, but of course that can be customized. But we focus on 10-week course. Each week is different. So Nicolle, you're talking about make ready. So week 3 we cover painting and make ready, and all the different tasks as laid out by both what Camden was doing and our TAAEF Maintenance Council are in that week's curriculum. And I'll go ahead and put a snapshot of what the week by week training outline looks like. But yeah, there's a lot of different things in there. Hopefully an introduction to all of the important pieces. And then as they're doing the work, they get that more hands-on experience.
Well, and one thing that I would say too, as far as these guides, is remember guys, they're guidelines, right? So it's like, these are sometimes interchangeable. I know whenever we look at our onboarding for like, for instance, for our teams, maybe we're going to cover, depending on what week of the month they start. If we have a ton of move outs that week, then make readies might move up to the list, right? We might change that. And then we'll talk about maybe preventative maintenance this week of the month. So I think that, looking at that guide, if you don't have a plan, then here's your plan. But if you do have one, then take a look at it and see what works for you. And it might change with each hire. It might change again, depending on when they start or what they're doing and what their skill set is, to Thomas's point earlier. Because I think that, one of the things we need to consider, and I would like to ask Thomas about this, I'm sure I'm stealing one of Blaise's questions, is that besides the change in, customizing it as far as the checks in the box, like when you mentioned before, Thomas, that before it was like a 27-year program in order for us to do all the things. And then you realize, okay, hold on, we're going to make this, tailored for that person. Are there any other pieces of advice that you give somebody that's new, like if they're brand new to this, right? And they're going to take a look at this and this is a full guide. Is there anything else that you would say that is maybe a best practice that you found to be successful with this, or a pitfall to avoid, because I totally could see that at Brookfield, like, okay, we're checking every box and it takes 14 years, right? So I think that was really poignant to me to be intentional. But is there anything else, Thomas? I'm sure Blaise is going to ask you the same question, but that you would suggest as like a best practice or something to avoid?
Yeah, so and I'm sorry, I don't know what happened to my internet, but I was off and on. But one of the things that we have done, because we actually use a platform for our guides, right? So we use a platform that we use, it's the planner platform. And so we give actually access to our apprentices to the guide as well. So, and with that, the purpose of that is being able where they don't have to go in and do anything, but just know what's coming their way, right? So they can prepare their questions, they can prepare what's coming, what's going to happen, this coming week, or when we talk about plumbing, what are we going to go through? So we've kind of took the approach of giving them the ability to see it, prepare the questions, so that way when they do talk to it with their maintenance supervisor, whoever's going to go over with them, they're more prepared for it. And the hope is with that is they are more prepared when it comes to that section of the training guide where questions are coming out of it. Maybe they already have notes, maybe, like whatever that looks like. So that was one of the things that we initially in the beginning, we did not give them access to see it. Now we do. And with the hope is it makes everyone feel a little bit more comfortable and know what's to come their way. Because I think the scary part probably for somebody, and I can only imagine the scary part for somebody who doesn't know this role is, I don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
And this kind of gives them that where like it's not that scary and this is what it is. And then again to our supervisors and our on-site staff was they don't have to be an expert after you're done training it, right? Give them the basics, let them walk through the basics. That way they have an understanding of what the job is. And just know once this is over, once this, the train, they're always gonna have access to go back and look at it. But know that it doesn't stop at the end of 8 weeks or 10 weeks. It's going to continue from there. And so that was the other biggest things that of communications on our side is don't expect an expert when you're done with this.
Well, that's good. I think that's always in life, when you're going through these programs, they're going to learn continuously on and on. You don't go through a program and you master it your first time through. I did want to ask you, Thomas, too. I'm guessing you've been doing this regularly since 2022. You've had a lot of candidates go through this program. How are you recruiting to find these individuals? And are you kind of going through what this all looks like with them before hiring and starting on this journey together?
Yeah, so we have a couple of partnerships that we've been working. The Workforce Solutions is one of the biggest ones that we have, and excited to say we're on our 4th cohort with them. So we just kicked that one off this past Friday. And then we've had a couple of others that we've worked through. Not all of them worked out as well as Workforce Solution has for us. Routes that we're looking at now is we're looking at tech schools. We're getting involved by market in tech schools in each of the markets that we're in. We're trying to put ourselves out there and get to those schools. Jason Fine and his team have been partnering with us and getting to schools and having conversations with classes and just kind of explaining who Camden is, what we do, what a day in the life of maintenance looks like. So that's been the biggest thing for us is getting in front of schools our tech schools is our next step, is where we can sort of build some partnerships throughout the nation, but using the tech school route. RSI is another big one that we've used in Arizona. And obviously we're looking at trying to partner with them anywhere else that they're coming out in.
Excellent. Now, Becca, is there any resources in addition to this apprenticeship guide and program that TAA is offering from the Education Foundation?
Well, the guide is the resource and it's big and it's how I spend the summer. So that's it for now. Although even just the process of going through a review with our program committee and other members of the EF board, we found other resources that we think would be helpful. So, a 6-week checking guide or a whatever guide, different tools and things that we can add to the guide, because digital is beautiful, that we can add, in the coming months to make it even better. So as people start to use it, I really would love feedback and love, how you're using it, what's been successful, what we could do better, what we could change. But to your point, Blaise, what Thomas was saying about Workforce Solution, and in the guide, there's a lot of information. They will help you do career fairs. They will help you to get candidates. Now, of course, they need to be a good fit for your company. We don't want to forget all the things that we've talked about on Hands from HR, but, they can help. They can help with some recruiting. So again, just another resource, another tool in your HR and recruiting tool belt to have. And that information, including how to find the local board, because each area has their own board, of course. So how to find them and who to connect with at those boards.
Nice. And I know this answer already, Thomas, but I just want to kind of throw it out there because you wouldn't be on the program today talking about the guide and putting your word behind it on how successful it's been. I would imagine that you would recommend this to other organizations in order to build up the next generation of maintenance staff to work on our communities and build a better place for people to live. And I'm assuming that's a yes, absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%. You know, I know in the beginning we thought like, what are we doing, right? Like we're thinking of really going green with some of these positions, but at the end of the day, it has worked out well. And if you don't mind, I do have some stats since 2022 that I can definitely share and kind of like what we've gone through so far. And you know, since 2022, we've had 49 apprentices come through Camden. 25 were promoted into a promotional role, which could be a technician, make ready tech, and so which is like a 51% conversion rate, which is a great percentage. 17 of those 25 are still employed as of today. So there's some really good numbers behind this to say it does work. Now, we understand it's not going to work for everyone, and that's okay. But to think back about like how many of these people who may have not had the experience in a technician world or in our industry to now call themselves a maintenance technician for us, and they're still currently with us, is huge. And just to hear the stories behind some of those and how this has changed their lives in so many in a great way, that's the beauty part of it. When you hear those types of stories, it's amazing to hear it. So I just wanted to share. I like stats, so I just wanted to share those with you.
No, that's wonderful to hear. I think that this is fantastic because you could tailor this program to any size of your organization, to whatever your needs can be. But this just gives you an outline of what the big picture could be, and then you make adjustments internally to what's going to suit the needs of your organization. Nicolle, you have anything to add with what you've seen over the course of implementing your new, I guess, onboarding?
Yeah, well, first, we're excited to have it. I think that's the first step, right? And it does take a long time to create something that wasn't there before. So, but if you never start LinkedIn land, then it'll never happen. So you have to make sure that you make that a priority with your company. If you don't have any type of apprenticeship or onboarding for maintenance, I think many of us do for office, right? And we always talk about how the maintenance is, doesn't have the same tools or access to the same type of training as we do for the office associates. And then we wonder why the turnover, just continues to happen. So make the step, right? So I'm super excited to have, Brookfield's rolled out and working with, Paul Rhodes here at Brookfield. So I definitely am running, side by side on this to see if there's opportunities for us that we, that we can just make our guide better. Because truly, that's what I love about the Education Foundation is that we're all stronger together and we're all in this together. I think that we discuss challenges as an industry. And I think that this guide is just, another resource as to why, being a member of this fantastic association has its privileges and benefits. So just, again, make the time. It's a big task. Like Thomas said, Thomas at the beginning was like, oh my gosh, what are we doing? Are we really sure we're going to do this? But to have 17 people, 33% of the 49 that went through it, still working, 25 got promoted. And like, that's better than 0, which is what we've got going on right now. Right. So I think that those are huge stats. They're only going to get better, as Camden continues to make that a focus. So as you guys know, intentionality, what gets focused on gets done. And if we focus on this, then we'll definitely see lots of success.
Hey, Becca, what is happening on September 20th at 2 p.m.?
September 20th at 2 p.m. There's a webinar that's going to dive deeper into the actual maintenance guide. You can register for it at TAAA.org/events. And thank you all so much for today and for being with us. Thomas, thank you to you and all of Camden for your partnership on this program. I am just in awe and thankful for all the support and sharing your project, your program with us. And hopefully it will help make us all better. So thank you all so much.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Thomas.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.